Well, this is part two of my tree tapping homemade maple syrup uh, video project. Uh, Here I'm pouring in the sap that I've collected. This was sap I collected Tuesday. So I tapped the trees on Sunday. They produced on Sunday a little bit, all day Monday and all day Tuesday. I came home from work and collected all of this sap. This is from mostly two trees. Two of the trees weren't producing very well. Um, in fact, one of them didn't really produce at all. You'll see here later that it is now, but um, you'll also see I'm pouring very, very slowly. This is a natural product, so there is some sediment, some crud in there that I do not want. So I'm going to pour very slowly, let the sediment stay in the bottom of the bucket. I thought twice about pouring more in. It's like, it's not worth it. So I switched out the bucket a little bit and got rid of that stuff, and go back through, and anything else that happens to fall in, I'll pick out. This pan right here I've used for years to boil with. It is not ideal. Ideally, you want a large flat pan. This is all I had access to, and I didn't really spend a lot of money on new hardware right yet. So you'll see it's pretty low budget. This whole operation is low budget. My daughter is out helping me. She has fun with this too.
Yeah.
She checks the buckets every time she comes home from school. This one's a one that wasn't producing at first, and it is now. It's doing pretty. It's okay. You see it on the tree. A little bit in there. So you can see that this is. I collected this on Thursday.
I have a feeling that it only
So
drips
this is
when it's going down.
all of Wednesday and most of Thursday.
Because when I get home from school, it's not dripping and it's almost empty.
Well, it goes. It catches it on the way
So
up
here's
and
the.
down.
This is a new tree. I've never tapped this tree before.
Yeah,
And this
you
one's
can
doing
see it
pretty
dripping
well.
now.
You can see this is 2 days worth of collection here. That's pretty good.
I don't know.
Just constantly dripping all day and all night, as well as the sap runs back down into the roots. So I'd emptied out the bucket I'm carrying was the one I had just dumped into the metal pan, the metal pot, and this is my fresh collection from Thursday now. I'll get between the first two trees. I couldn't collect anymore, so I'll rehang this, and I went and put the bucket down. You can kind of see the dark spots there on the tree where it's seeping out around the spile.
Yeah, this one's producing now. It wasn't.
This is
before,
one that
was
wasn't
it?
producing before, and it's doing pretty good.
Feeling that, it only
Enough that I couldn't collect it. I didn't have room on my bucket for it.
Much as in that one.
This one's a little lower on the property. It sits in a kind of a wet area, a natural runoff, so it's a bit more moisture available to it. Here's where I talk about low budget. I do not have a big fire pit or box to burn and boil in. What I do is I make a makeshift little grill out there. I put my pot up there, and I keep adding unboiled sap to it. I actually use this opportunity to clean the yard up. You can see I have a lot of trees, so it's pretty easy to go around and find sticks and twigs and branches and stuff that need to be cleaned up. So this is how I get rid of it. I boil sap and clean up the yard at the same time. I didn't get a lot of boiling done outside. In fact, I got very little done outside. So in the interest of time and demonstration, I actually brought this pot is mostly unboiled sap, which I would never usually bring unboiled sap into the house. Here's me taking its temperature. So obviously water boils at sea level at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This is not the ideal thermometer. My other one broke a couple years ago and I forgot, and I haven't replaced it. So you can see it's now almost 10 o'clock at night, and I just started my boiling process inside. I collected during the daylight, and then I had some other personal things that get taken care of during the evening. Dinner was among them. So now it's 10:30, and I've got a pretty good boil going, and you can see the water the sap is mostly clear. It has a little bit of a brown tint to it. Once you started heating it, it created a little bit of a brown tint. I think that's the sugars in it. There, it's been running for a while, and a lot of the water has evaporated away. It's now after 11 o'clock at night, and I've started a pretty good evaporation going. Yeah, it's a long process. It takes a while. I've been doing this for a couple hours now, and that's all the water that I've gotten rid of. I would have normally done that outside, like I said before. So now I've boiled off about half my water. It's 11:30 at night, give or take. It actually starting to smell pretty good. The whole house kind of smells like syrup. Just a tiniest little hint. Now it's after midnight. It's officially Friday now, so you'll see I'm going to grab my thermometer, or the one that doesn't work very well. This is not the right application for that thermometer, but I'll use it anyway. And here in a second, you'll officially see me give up on using that thermometer. There, 12:30 now. You can see it's changed color a lot as the water has evaporated away. What happens here while you use the thermometer is as the water evaporates away, the sugar concentration goes up. As the sugar concentration goes up, the boiling point goes up. It'll actually go, I can't remember the numbers. Usually it's 212, but you'll see it 220. And that's when you want to watch it with a thermometer. You don't want to burn this. You don't want to overboil it. But my thermometer wasn't working in this case. It wasn't doing it for me. So I'm going to have to go back to doing, kind of manually eyeball this thing, take samples of it, see what it looks like, see if it's starting to get the right consistency. It's nowhere near ready yet, but I wanted to see how clear, what it looked like now as it starts to change color and change consistency. So there's quite a bit of the water is boiled away now. I've given up on the thermometer, I believe, and I'm just using my senses now. I'm going to eyeball it. It's what was it, 12:40 now, so 3 hours into this, give or take. So what I'm doing now is, because it is a natural product, I didn't get all the little floaties and stuff out of there. I'm gonna filter it a little bit. I'm gonna use that cheesecloth on that mason jar there, and filter it. Right now, I'm taking my glassware and I'm running hot water in it, heating it up, so it's not gonna see a thermal shock, getting it much warmer. And then I'll pour my. You see, this is still very much liquid. This is I haven't taken anything out. It's just boiled away. It's changed color quite a bit now. It's starting to get that golden color. But it's still very much water. It actually has a sweet flavor now to it if you were to taste it. This stuff's a little on the hot side. And I'm going to run it through the cheesecloth, pull out any floaties or debris or anything that was left behind. I couldn't quite pour this whole measuring cup into the jar, so I'm going to have to go 2 rounds here. So I'm going to pull the pan off, pour the rest of the pan into the jar, and then empty this mason jar back into the pan. You'll hear me kick the burner back on here in a minute and start the boiling process again, or restart it. Oh, I'm rinsing the pan out right now. Sorry, I wanted to get anything else, any other debris or sediment that was in the pan. I wanted to rinse that out, get it nice and clean, and go to my finished boil. This is where I would normally bring it in from outside. When I will do all of this boiling outside and bring in sap that looks like this and do the finished boil on the stove. It's a lot more controlled, a lot easier to control the temperature inside, but it's very expensive to use natural gas to do all of this boiling. Like I said, my burner had been running for 3 or more hours at this point, so not a cheap endeavor. That's why I try to use scrap wood and material and stuff from the outside. There, I'm firing it back up again. I'll put the cheesecloth back on here and finish it up and get it all filtered. So this is normally the process where I would come inside and start the finish process, get it filtered out, and do the finish boil. But for demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you what this looked like here. So, and you can see that the cheesecloth caught quite a bit of floaties in there. That glass is a little warm, so interest of safety here. I want to hold it with the glove there, but. Yeah, so there's little floaties kicking around. I don't know what those are from, whether they're from the tree or from the air or from the pans I was using or what. But I don't want it in my syrup, so that's how I get it out of there. Go back and start boiling some more. So here's all that sap. That pan was full of sap and now it's been boiled down to this. It has a lot different color now. The caramel color is coming out in the sugars that are inside there, and the water is leaving. If I had a thermometer, I would guess that that's quite a bit more warm now, about probably over 212 to 215 or so. But I'm back to the eyeball method. Take a look at it here, kind of see that in the pan it looks pretty good, but if you look at it in the shot glass, it's still got some tone to it, but it's still water. That's a lot of water yet still in there. It has a sweet flavor now to it. You can actually taste it, and it tastes like maple syrup, like very weak maple syrup. I wouldn't want to put that on anything at this point, but it's getting there. This is the stages. Now you'll start seeing the bubbles start to change shape. It's less of a water boil and more of a syrup boil. It's a sugary boil. The bubbles are bigger. They cover the pan a little bit more, and eventually what will happen here is the bubbles will cover the surface of the syrup, and I can't see it anymore. So I'll eyeball it here again. Very scientific method, I know. Looking pretty good. It's changed color for sure. Still not there yet, but it's also deceiving because it won't look like syrup like you're used to in a jar. There's 1 a.m. now. It won't look like syrup in a jar because it's hot. It's very, very hot, so it's still going to be very, very fluidic. So it's not gonna actually look like syrup when you're done with it. And then here's where the bubbling's looking a little different. The boil looks a little different now. It's not water anymore. It is a syrup. So I'm gonna turn this burner off and do a once over and see if it's ready to bottle up yet. At this point, this would be usable. It's a little watery. It would stretch it out and go a little farther. There, see that bobbles are a lot different now. It covers the whole surface, and you could easily scorch this and go beyond where you want to be if you're not careful. It goes from sap to a burnt hockey puck in your pan pretty quick if you're not careful. So you got to eyeball it and stay on it, and kind of watch it. I think that's it. I think that's the last boil I'm going to do. I'm going to start the process of getting it bottled now. Yep, that's pretty much done. So the other thing you need to do is kind of give it what I do anyway is give it a cold water bath. I will cool down the outside of the pan with water and try to get it to see if it's going to firm up on me. And this one didn't do too bad. I could have left this on a few more minutes, but it was already almost 2 a.m. and I'm done. I'm ready to go to bed at this point. So it is what it is. It's still delicious at this point. It'll go in the refrigerator and firm up some more when it gets cold. I would have normally have scraped this pan out a little bit better than this. There was quite a bit left over in the pan. I was impatient. And of course you have to sample it. That's pretty good. I may or may not have sat and finished wiping that pan clean with my finger before I went to bed. So there is no photographic evidence of that, but it may or may not have happened. And this is the jar that I've been using for years for my syrup. I did not sanitize this. This is not a sanitized jar like, making beer or something like that. So you would normally sanitize all your glassware if you're going to make a wine or a meat or beer or something like that, or canning vegetables, fruits and vegetables. But there it is. That's all of that sap in that pan. That's not a whole bucket. That's just the pan's worth. So thanks for joining me.